Hey everyone, welcome back to CCF1. The Russian Grand Prix is what we're going to be reviewing today. A race that stirred up a lot of mixed opinions with the penalties that took place and the overall results. We're over halfway through the season where we're putting all the races up against each other to see which one's the best and which one is the worst. Cass, the Russian Grand Prix, how was the first part for you?
Initially, what looked like Hamilton getting away well. And Max, once again, struggling to get those tires warmed up, but then Bottas comes out of nowhere. He's like, P3? Nah, I'm gonna squeeze right in there. So it was looking like it was at least going to be a promising battle between the two Mercedes from the get-go, and this track has been favorable for Bottas in the past, so I was looking forward to it.
Especially after qualifying, where Hamilton just barely made it into the final qualifying round, and he was the only one starting on soft, so it wasn't going to be the easiest win for Hamilton.
And especially, too, because we wanted to see some sort of battle. He's closing in on tying that record for 91 wins, but you don't want to make it easy on him. Wanted to see some good fight, because we all know he's going to get that win at some point, but it did not come today.
Hamilton is under investigation before the race even starts about 2 grid practice starts. The race gets started, and I felt like I was watching F1 esports. You have Sainz having to take the escape chicane and slams right into the wall, except this time the car just doesn't bounce off the wall. He's out of the race for the second time in 2 races off the first lap.
Once again, we're seeing early lap chaos. Carlos is out. Then the rest of the field is trying to shift back into position and avoid any sort of debris. And then out of nowhere, seemingly, Lance is spinning, loses his front wing. He's crashed out of the race. And at first you're wondering, what on earth happened there? The commentators are saying he made a mistake. Nope. Charles Leclerc clipping the back wheel knocked him out of the race.
No penalty there, especially.
No penalty.
Just a racing incident. Controversial point right there. How that seems like a move that's happened to Alex Albon multiple times against Hamilton, and Hamilton's gotten a penalty. But this time, I don't know what you're talking about.
Charles is getting away with a lot of kind of shady moves or things in general that should be investigated a little bit harder and definitely penalized. I think there's a pretty large consensus that he's gotten away very easy, and that's nothing against him. It's just consistency would be nice.
So the safety car comes out. 2 cars are already out of the race. Next thing you know, while they're behind the safety car, it's officially announced that Hamilton has not 1, but 2 penalties for each practice start, 5 seconds each. Honestly, I still think it's kind of absurd. Just expected like a fine or some penalty points.
Yeah, I did find it surprisingly harsh considering you could hear the team radio telling him to go ahead, and it just seemed more like driver and team confusion as opposed to anything else. They didn't expect him to move up so far, but then he's also asking, where is this in the rule book? And it was right there, so technically they did know that you're not supposed to do that, so it's a little bit unclear of how much was known ahead of time.
So the race gets started once again, and I have to say that this was by far the cleanest safety car restart of the season. Everything seemed to be dwindling down back to an average race.
There was not much overtaking happening. Most of it was at the back of the grid. Like, you had a couple of shuffles between Kimi and Latifi, Kvyat and Grosjean, and there was a little bit of a first tiny little battle between Russell, Albon, and Norris.
I do have to say, though, some of the passing and wheel-to-wheel action that did occur wasn't at least always in the same location.
Yeah, I mean, we still did see some pretty awesome overtakes. I mean, Perez on Daniel. In my opinion, probably one of the best moves of the race.
Also in the first half, you have Ocon impressing everyone by being ahead in the 3rd place at one point, and then next thing you know, he's struggling to get past the Ferrari, and then pretty much is given team orders to let Ricciardo by. And what sucks there is they had to do it at like the last minute right before turn 2, and that's where Ricciardo goes over the track boundaries.
Yeah, that was a clear-cut penalty, and he knew it.
Luckily, he didn't seem too frustrated, and rightfully so, because in the end, it didn't impact him at all. So for the first half of this race, I did give my excitement a 5. I did get excited off the first lap, sort of craziness. There's a penalty. Hamilton dropped down, and he's got to work his way up. Is he going to make it onto the podium at this point? I wasn't sure. I did score the driving a 7 at this point because I wasn't expecting as many passes to be happening in the first half. I guess it might be because Hamilton is in such a stronger car and he was getting past everyone. I still found it pretty dramatic with the penalty playing in, so I scored the drama a 6.
I mean, I feel that, but also this is just notoriously one of the most boring tracks. It's pretty clear cut, so that's why I put the racing at a 2. Everything was just a battle at the back. When it's a Mercedes having to plow its way through the field, you know they're gonna get by. Yeah, I don't know. There was that one good move from Perez, but everything else racing-wise, I didn't find it really much quality. And honestly, not that much quantity either, so I rate it very low. Excitement and drama I both put out a 4. Just because, yeah, that first lap incident was like the highlight. And then everything else from there was just kind of, you get a penalty, you get a penalty. But at the end of the day, you kind of know if someone in the midfield's getting a penalty, it might cause a bit of a shakeup anywhere between positions 4 to 10. But with Hamilton getting a penalty, you knew that he was pretty much still in the clear for a podium.
So overall, combining my scores, comes out to about a 6. Still seems quite high, but I think I was still pleasantly surprised with how the race was going with the circumstances that I was watching.
I, on the other hand, my score comes out to like a 3.3, so I bumped it up to a 3.5. I don't really like this track. I don't find it yields that much good racing or excitement, even if it's a good race for that track.
I mean, I have to say, I came in with low expectations and I was quite content with what I saw in the first half thus far. And it had a few moments of shining, but for the most part, the race dropped off. Verstappen didn't have anything else going. Hamilton was just making his way back up. And then you just had like a few sort of shake-up points that just kept it kind of interesting.
I did find that the racing itself was a little bit better in the second half. Like, it was interesting to see the Renault and Ferrari sandwich. You did have a pretty risky move from Albon on Giovinazzi where he got really squeezed up against the barrier, so that was impressive that he pulled that off without crashing.
Then probably my highlight of this race was when Grosjean had to last minute realize, oh crap, I'm gonna get a penalty if I don't take this chicane properly. Didn't take it properly. Slammed right into the blockade. This ended up causing a virtual safety car for this race.
And this completely screwed over Gasly. His team did not anticipate the fact that the virtual safety car would come to an end so quickly, so they pull him into the pits just for the virtual safety car to end. So he ends up dropping back.
Ends up out of the points now.
And has to start making his way back through again, which is something we've seen with him far too many times this season through no fault of his own.
So he had to go up against some pretty tough drivers and some pretty competitive cars, both Albon and Norris, to get back to where he once was, and rightfully so. He did get past them. And another driver that's been super good in this race, which I'm happy to see, was Kvyat at his home race. I almost thought he was going to get past Leclerc because we've seen those two cars going up against each other a lot this season.
And then to round off the race, Albon gets a 5-second time penalty on the last lap. Like, we are approaching the final 2 corners and you see the little banner on the screen pop up saying he's got a penalty, and I'm like,
For what?
what did he do? I didn't see anything. They didn't show it. I'm assuming he didn't take the chicane properly. That seems to be the only reason people got penalties today, so I don't know what the hell he did, but it didn't really seem to impact his race. Giovinazzi was too far behind. Albon scooped up that last point in a Red Bull. Ooh.
So that pretty much concluded the Russian Grand Prix. From the second half, everyone stayed roughly in the same positions, and we only had those few key highlight moments that kept us engaged. So when scoring the second half, what were your numbers, Cass?
They were even lower. I put the racing at a 4 because I did think it was a bit better. But once again, it was just battling for those last few points positions. Grosjean hitting the blockade that stirred up some drama and then as a result backed people up and had to cause some overtakes. So thanks, Grosjean. You made it a little spicy. But overall, like, the drama and excitement for me, I put down at a 2 because I got bored and disinterested at this point. There wasn't really much going on. At most, you get a 5-second time penalty, but we've seen from everyone else it's not really impacting their race because, let's be honest, the field was pretty spread out today.
On my side, I did lower my numbers versus the first half, of course. So I scored the driving a 5, mostly from Gasly doing those overtakes again. He had Ocon getting almost a chance at Leclerc. The excitement was there, like you said, with the random virtual safety car shakeup. And sort of just excited to see what Hamilton had to say after the race, which also feeded into the drama. So I scored both those a 4, scoring my overall second half a 4.
My second half was a 2.5. So that puts our score for the Russian Grand Prix at an even 4. Not the worst race we've seen, but also pretty far from the best.
It was a decent average kind of race at Sochi. Here's where it stands against all the other races of the season thus far. We are going to be back in another 2 weeks' time. We're going back to Germany at the Nürburgring. We will be back with another race review. Our social media links are right there.
I do all the live tweeting during race weekends. Follow along.
Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with how we reviewed this race, and we will catch you in the next video.
Bye!